हम कश्मीर के मजलूम
ला ययअसु मिर रौहिल्लाहि इल्लल कौमुल काफिरीन इल्लल कौमुल काफिरून फलम्मा दखलू अलैहि क़ालू या अय्युहल अज़ीज़ु मस्सना व अहलना दुर्रु वजि'ना बिबिदाअतिन मुज़्जातिन फ़अव्फ़ि लनल कैल वतसद्दक़ अलैना इन्नल्लाह यजज़िल मुतसद्दिक़ीन क़ाल हल अलिमतुम मा फ़अलतुम बियूसुफ़ व अख़ीहि इज़ अंतुम जाहिलून क़ालू अइन्नक लअन्त यूसुफ़ क़ाल अना यूसुफ़ व हाज़ा अख़ी क़द मन्नल्लाहु अलैना इन्नहु मन यत्तक़ि व यस्बिर फ़इन्नल्लाह ला युज़ीअु अजरल मुहसिनीन क़ालू तल्लाहि लक़द आज़रक अल्लाहु अलैना व इन कुन्ना लख़ातिईन क़ाल ला तज़रीब अलैकुमुल यौम यग़फ़िरुल्लाहु लकुम व हुवा अर्हमुर राहिमीन इज़हबू बिक़मीसी हाज़ा फ़अल्क़ूहु अला वजहि अबी यअति बसीरा वअतूनी बिअहलिकुम अजमईन वलम्मा फ़सलतिल ईरु क़ाल अबूहुम इन्नी लअजिदु रीह यूसुफ लौला अन तुफ़न्निदून क़ालू तल्लाहि इन्नक लफ़ी ज़लालिकल क़दीम फलम्मा अन जाअल बशीरु अल्क़ाहु अला वजहिही फ़र्तद्द बसीरा क़ाल अलम अक़ुल लकुम इन्नी अअलमु मिनल्लाहि मा ला तअलमून क़ालू या अबाना अस्तग़फ़िर लना ज़ुनूबना इन्ना कुन्ना ख़ातिईन क़ाल सौफ़ अस्तग़फ़िरु लकुम रब्बी इन्नहु हुवल गफ़ूरुर रहीम सदक़ल्लाहु मौलानल अज़ीम व बल्लगना रसूलुहुन नबियुल करीम व नहनु अला ज़ालिका मिनश शाहिदीन वश्शाकिरीन वल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन وَتَوَلَّى عَنْهُمْ, and then he returned from them. He diverted his attention from them. وَقَالَ يَا أَسَفَا عَلَى يُوسُف. Then he exclaimed with sorrow, Ya Asafa ala Yusuf. Alas for Yusuf. For Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. وَبِيَدَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ. And he had gone blind, min al-huzn, on account of grief. فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And he was highly grieved person. قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ تَفْتَوْ تَذْكُرُ يُوسُفَ. They said, by God, you always recollect, remember Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, hatta takuna haradan, until you fall ill, aw takuna minal halikin, or you become more likely to die. Qala innama ashku basi wa huzni ilallahi. He said, I complain my grief and sorrow to my Allah. Wa a'lamu minallahi ma la ta'lamun. And I know from my Lord which is not known to you, which you don't know. Ya Bani. When he heard the total story made by them, he expressed his own opinion. Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, said to them, Ya Bani, O my sons, O my offspring, Izhabu, go back. Look, the certainty of the conviction of the father, of the prophet. He was fully sure, he was fully certain that Joseph along with Benjamin were safe and sound. Izhabu, go back. Fatahassasu min Yusuf wa akhihi. So the disputed matter was Benjamin, not Joseph. But he included the story of Joseph as well, and he advised them to go back and search for both of them. He said, Fatahassasu min Yusuf wa akhihi. Go back and search for Joseph and Benjamin, his brother Benjamin. وَلَا تَأْسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. And don't be disappointed of the mercy of Allah. Don't be despair of mercy of Allah. إِنَّهُ لَا يَأْسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. It is fact that no one can be disappointed from the mercy of Allah إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ, except of those people who are totally infidel. Infidelity is a cause of disappointment from the mercy of Allah. As long as one is properly believing in Allah, cannot be disappointed. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. So when, accordingly, they went back and they entered upon Joseph. They presented themselves to Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Qalu ayyuhal azizo, O exalted sir, O vicegerent of the country, O chancellor of exchequer of the country, or finance minister of the country. Really he was vicegerent, but all of the other titles were also used by the commentators. But his proper designation is, he is wholly solely in charge of the country, so much so that the king was reported to have believed in the prophethood of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, and he was subject to Joseph. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. So when they entered upon Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ. They said, O exalted sir, O vicegerent of the country, مَسَّنَا وَأَهْلَنَا الدُّرُّ. We along with our family are in trouble. وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ, and we came here with the money with scanty worth, with a very simple value, is not up to standard and not is not sterling currency. فَأَوْفِي لَنَا الْكَيْلَ, I shall request you to complete the quota of ration for us. فَأَوْفِي لَنَا الْكَيْلَ, complete the measurement of the grain or corn for us. وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا, and not only the completion of the measurement according to our share, according to our deservation, but we shall request you to be benevolent to us and to be charitable to us. وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا, and be charitable upon us. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْزِي الْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ, verily Allah likes the charitable properties. Allah likes the benevolent, generous, beneficent benefactors. قَالَ هَلْ عَلِمْتُمْ مَا فَعَلْتُمْ بِيُوسُفَ, at this eve, Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, wanted to express himself to them. هَلْ عَلِمْتُمْ مَا فَعَلْتُمْ بِيُوسُفَ, do you know what you did against Joseph? وَأَخِيهِ, and against his brother, means you know your behavior, your character, and you are dealing with Joseph and his brother, means you are very cruel. Being a stepbrother, you never left a stone unturned in the persecution of both of the brothers just because they were stepbrothers. So being stepbrother is not a liability to be punished. Is antum jahilun, but this was practiced, this was attempted by you because you were ignorant person. You were not aware of the fact. So this is a polite behavior of the Prophet. They were not underage. They were not minors. When they tried to commit the murder of Joseph, when they cast him in the well, it was a try to commit the murder. And when they committed it, they were not underage, they were not minor. They had properly attained the age of their majority. They had attained the age of puberty. This is why they said, these two persons are minor. They cannot fight in the field. They cannot confront the other tribals residing in our adjacent areas. And we are adults. Nahnu usba. We are in position to protect the interests of our father against the other country, against the other tribes. So according to their own statement, they were properly adult persons. They had achieved the age of majority. But here the Prophet likes to deal them with very polite manner. Therefore he says that is antum jahilun, you were not fully aware. You were ignorant person. You did whatever you did on account of your ignorance. So this was an indicative for the polite treatment by Joseph. May grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Qalu innaka la anta Yusuf. They said, are you Joseph? You yourself are Joseph. Qala ana Yusuf haza akhi. I am Joseph. And here is my brother. Benjamin is my brother, and I am in fact Joseph. Subhanallah. Now all of the facts were unveiled and everything was disclosed to them. Now the left story is also going to be discussed in the coming chapter, in the following chapter. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Subhanallah. Allah has been very gracious to us. إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ. Verily, whoever exercises the fortitude, the patience, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So verily Allah does not waste the remuneration, the reward of those people who are righteous ones. قالوا تالله لقد آثرك الله علينا. They said, by God, Allah has exalted you over us. وَإِن كُنَّا لَخَاطِئِينَ. And we were verily in the fault. It was our mistake. It was our misunderstanding. We were faulty persons. We were guilty persons against you. قَالَ لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. He said, today you would not be taken to task. You would not be called to the account. لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. No action would be taken against you. يغفر الله لكم. May God forgive you. وهو أرحم الراحمين. And He is the most merciful you have ever experienced. اذهبوا بقميصي هذا. Take this shirt of mine. فألقوا على وجه أبي يأتي بصيرا. And put it on the face of my father, and he will restore the sight. وَأْتُونِي بِأَهْلِكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. And then you are to bring all of the family members to me. وَلَمَّا فَصَلَتِ الْإِيرُ. When the caravan left Egypt for Canaan, قَالَ أَبُوهُمْ. Their father cried out. He exclaimed with joy, إِنِّي لَأَجِدُ رِيحَ يُوسُفَ لَوْلَا أَن تُفَنِّدُونَ. Today I am perceiving the smell of Joseph. If you don't think me in dot age, in the too old age when one's wisdom and intelligence does not properly work, is called dot age. If you don't think me in dot age, I shall dare to say that I am perceiving, I am finding the smell of my Joseph. The perfume of Joseph is coming to me. قالوا تالله إنك لفي ضلالك القديم. They said, by God, you are suffering from the same old love of Joseph. You are absorbed. You are always in ecstasy of Joseph. Therefore you always think about Joseph. فَلَمَّا أَنْ جَاءَ الْبَشِيرُ. So when the person carrying the glad tidings, glad news for him, came near, أَلْقَاهُ عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. And he cast and he threw the shirt of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, on his face. When the shirt of Joseph was cast on the face of Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, فَرْدَدَّ بَصِيرًا. He restored the sight. He went with the normal eyesight again. قَالَ أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكُمْ. He said, didn't I tell you, أَنِّي أَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. I know from my Lord what you don't know. This is speciality of the knowledge of the Prophet, that he knows whatever is not known to the other society. قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَا. They said, O our father, istaghfir lana. Please intercede us with Allah Rabbul Izzat to forgive our sins. Inna kunna khati'een. Really, in fact, and surely, and verily, we were guilty persons. Qala sawfa astaghfiru lakum rabbi. He said, I shall intercede you with Allah Rabbul Izzat to forgive you. Innahu huwal ghafur rahim. He is all forgiving, the most merciful. This is the translation, the verbal translation of the passage I recited before you. Here, Quran says, then they disappointed Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, from the meeting of Benjamin as well, but he was not disappointed by them. He just diverted his attention from them to the other side. It was just a sign of annoyance, means he got angry with them that such type of statement was not appropriate on their part, and it was really very teasing and very torturing for Jacob. May grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Therefore he turned his face from the other side, from them to other side. وَقَالَ يَا أَسَفَا عَلَى يُوسُف. He said, he exclaimed with sorrow, alas for Joseph. So it was a cry on the lips of the Prophet, because he was missing very badly. And according to one statement, there was separation of near about 40 years. But according to one statement, one narrative, the separation between father and son was near about 80 years. But look, the stability and permanence of love, that the love survived during the long period of 80 years. Love is very permanent one, very stable thing. وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. And in the meanwhile, he lost his eyesight because he continued to weep. And Imam Fakhruddin Razi, along with Imam Nasfi, they say that it was completely known to Joseph, completely known to Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. Then what is the reason for weeping? They say that he was aware of the facts, he was aware of the total details, but he was not going to tell according to the order of Allah Rabbul Izzat. And it was the intention of Allah to separate them for a long time, just to establish a precedent of fortitude and patience by a prophet, so that the other society might follow the behavior, the character of a prophet. These precedents established by the prophets are a typical example to be followed by the society. This is not a book of story, this is a divine book. This is to teach the people the good morals, the good ethics, the good ideology, the good practice. So the moral to be achieved in this story is just to exercise the patience, just to exercise the fortitude at the time of calamity, adversity, and different type of the vicissitudes. وَبِيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ وَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. And he got blind on account of the grief, and he was very grieved person, because he could not do even for a single minute without Joseph, may grace and the peace of Allah be upon him, but yet he had to afford all of the difficulties in the separation of Joseph. قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ. When they told the story of Benjamin, and he was disappointed by their statement, he did not surrender. He did not yield to their statement, but he began to announce about Joseph. The story of Benjamin was being furnished in front of him. The details concerning with Benjamin were being expressed, were explained in front of Joseph, in front of Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. But instead of Benjamin, he began to mention Joseph. So this was not appropriate context for the mentioning, for the recollection of Joseph, because the story of Benjamin was going to be explained. And at that time it was appropriate on his part to touch the mention and to explain the story of Benjamin. But instead of Benjamin, he began to recollect, to remember Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, which was not appropriate according to the context. The context was compelling him to follow the story of Benjamin, but instead of Benjamin, he began to mention the name of Joseph. They said, so what a curious thing, because Joseph was not being mentioned, only the Benjamin was mentioned. Therefore he should have talked about the details of Benjamin, but instead of Benjamin he began to mention Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. It was just awkward to them. They said, قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ تَفْتَوْ تَذْكُرُ يُوسُفَ حَتَّى تَكُونَ حَرَضًا أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْهَالِكِينَ. They say, by God. You always remember Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, without any context. There was that was not an appropriate occasion for the mentioning of Joseph, but you are doing the same. حَتَّى تَكُونَ حَرَدًا أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْحَالِكِينَ. This is your habitual fact. This is your hobby. This is your common practice. You are accustomed to mention Joseph without any context. So it may tell upon your health, or you look to be more likely to die on account of grief of Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him. So this is an effect of sincere love, that one cannot help mentioning the name of one's beloved. Man ahabba shay'an aksara zikrahu. This is a natural fact that when one loves a thing, he cannot avoid mentioning that thing. Quran says, قَالَ إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَصِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ وَأَعْلَمُ مِنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. You think it to be inappropriate, you think it to be awkward for me to mention the name of Joseph without any context, without any reasonable situation, but I am in the right. I know the proper usage of my statement. Innama ashku basi wa huzni. This context is known to my Allah. You are not aware of my context. I am seeing what is behind the curtain, what is behind the wall, what is unseen, but you are not in position to see that one. Therefore my statement doesn't look to be appropriate to them, to you. Qala innama ashku basi wa huzni ilallahi. I shall complain my sorrows and sufferings to my Allah. I shall make complaint of my sorrows and sufferings and pains to my Allah. Wa alamu min Allah ma la ta'lamun. And I know from my Lord which you don't know. So this is the speciality of the Prophet, that his knowledge is extra knowledge, extraordinary knowledge, which is not known by the common society. This is why the society is duty bound by the law to follow the Prophet, because whose knowledge is extra, his position is extra. Since the knowledge of Prophets are extraordinary, therefore the Prophets are also extraordinary. Ya baniya izhabu fatahassasu min Yusuf. And this was totally different from their thinking, because they were discussing the matter of Benjamin, but Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, was compelling them to chase up Joseph as well, not only to pursue the case of, not only to proceed with the case of Benjamin, but he advised them to search for the Joseph as well. Means, according to their statement, Joseph had died, and Joseph had been swallowed by the wolf. But according to the knowledge of Prophet, Joseph was alive, and he was working somewhere, and he was a sovereign of the country somewhere. Therefore he says, Izhabu, O my sons, go back, fatahassasu min Yusuf wa akhihi, and search for Joseph along with his brother, wala ta'asu min rawhillah. And I assure you that you should not be disappointed by the circumstances. You will find me to be the righteous person in this respect. Innahu la ya'asu min rawhillah. This was an indication about this disappointment. This is not a matter of disappointment. Nothing was to be disappointed about. It was their right to search for Joseph along with his brother Benjamin, because the disappointment is an exclusive right of the infidel. The disappointment from the mercy of Allah is infidelity according to Islamic ideology. Quran says, فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ. So according to the advice of Jacob, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, they went back. When they entered upon Joseph, may grace and peace of Allah be upon him, قَالُوا يَا أَيُّهَا الْعَزِيزُ. They said, O exalted sir, O vicegerent of the country, Masana wa alana durru. We along with our family are in a trouble. Wajina bibida'atim muzjat. And we have brought a money or a good with scanty worth. Means that does not worth for your luggage, for your grain. Your grain is too expensive to be bought for this price. This price is not enough to purchase your grain. But we shall request you to be benevolent to us, to be generous to us. For please complete the measurement of our quota